Tired of serving up the same old tasteless victuals to your family? Step up your grill game with new seasonings from Coy's Southern Eats. Based off famous Southern recipes, our seasonings will add what's been missing to your family's feast. Add it to steak, chicken, shrimp, you name it. Serving up these fixings is going to make you the hero at home. So head on over to coyssoutherneats.com and order yours today. Come get you some.
And everybody, welcome to the Sunday edition, September 17th. And this is the Razorback Football Report with Otis Kirk. I'm your host, Jason Pattyson. I want to thank John James for all of the incredible photos that he sends us each week. Also want to thank Pixabay for the music. And also Coy's Southern Eats, our sponsor. Wouldn't be here without them. Also, you can find Coy's Southern Eats at coyssoutherneats.com, all of their great products on their website, select stores in Central Arkansas, and on Amazon. And go and find and rediscover the nostalgia and memories with Coy's Southern Eats. Come get you some. Otis, how you doing, man?
Doing better, much better today than I was yesterday, man. I mean, a lot of pain the last 2 days, actually Friday and Saturday. But no, I'm fine today, pretty much.
That's great to hear, yeah, because I got that email from you Friday night, and I was a little worried. I'm not gonna lie, because man.
Well, that's pretty vague. I said medical update. Yeah, but it was it's just back. I mean, it does this. I was in Denver a couple of years ago for Dalton's graduation. Well, fine. Drove up there, was fine till Monday of the day of the graduation. Woke up that morning, could barely walk. I've had too many car wrecks, none of which were my fault. And no, I'm not a millionaire. I was a nice guy and played too nice with those people because I've had my cars totaled out. None of them was my fault, and I should be rich, but I'm not. I'm an idiot. So what do you say, man? but no, it's much better today. I appreciate my doctor, man. He was awesome Friday, and I appreciate him. He was great, and so we'll see how it works out.
I will say though,
for a year, and then it'll do it again, Jason. He can do it tomorrow. It may be a year. There's no warning. That's the bad part. There's no warning of this. Thursday,
it just comes up and that's it. Yeah. I will say though, you are rich in love with those dogs that you got there, and the cat at the house. So,
and the guinea pig. Don't leave out the guinea pig, man.
The guinea pig, yes.
He needs to make an appearance on here sometime. I mean, his name is Shaq. He is obviously got a Laker name. I mean, without the Lakers, I don't think I could name my dogs. Animals. Even the kitten's a girl. It's named Rui. So.
There's a question that I'm going to pose to you a little bit later on. We'll get back to that in just a second. So let's kind of get to the task at hand here a little bit. Razorbacks lose their first game of the season to BYU 38-31. You were encouraged by the way that the game started. A.J. Green hits a 55-yard run, keeps his shoulders, keeps his head up, kind of finds his way through between the tackles, which is something that he's had some trouble here at Arkansas with. Wades through those big uglies in the front and gets loose. But then after that, it seems like the offense kind of they were minus Isaiah Satania run back over in just a little bit. But I felt like in the fourth quarter alone, it was really stagnant, and Arkansas was having a little bit of issues in getting the right personnel out.
I don't understand. A.J. Green has 3 carries for 63 yards on the first drive. He got 6 carries the rest of the game. I do not – if other backs were like in the Liberty Bowl, Rashad Dubinion had a great game. So did A.J. But right now, nobody else is – we hear us talk about the offense, and I'm not defending the offensive line, but all this talk about the offensive line, can't open. Oh, A.J. Green, 4 carries, 22 yards at Little Rock. 5.5 yards carry. Same thing. 5.5 yards against Kent State. Had more yards. I don't get it. I mean, you got the best running back on the team minus Rocket, and I can debate that. I can debate AJ being as good as Rocket, but I'm not going to go there. But I'm just telling you, AJ Green needs more than 9 touches. I mean, he makes things happen. The others aren't. It's nothing personal. It's nothing personal. I'm not like A.J. Green's agent, man. I'm just telling you what I see, and I've seen it for 3 weeks. We talk about the offensive line. Everybody gripes about the offensive line. A.J. Green's running behind the same offensive line that these other guys are. Look, I'm proud Dominic Johnson's able to play football again.
Yeah.
He has been through hell with those knee surgeries. So I get it. But you've got to feed your better – I don't know, man. It's frustrating to see AJ only get 9 touches, and I mean, he's making things happen in the running game, and the other guys aren't. And and if I asked Coach Pittman this week about AJ if he felt like I asked him something about the running back AJ.
Yeah.
I asked him, do you feel like the Liberty Bowl helped his confidence? He said, yeah, and our dubs. Well, let's look at this. Since in the Liberty Bowl, Dubinion was great. He hasn't been great all season. I know coaches want to do the alphabet soup deal where they name all the players. It keeps them happy. I get that. But I'm talking about from my standpoint, I sit there and watch the game, the same offensive line that everybody's running behind, and AJ's making it happen, and the others aren't. It's that simple, and I've got to get him more than 9 carries. 14 penalties is – everybody's down, talking about they won't win another game except Florida International. I look at it this way, and they may not. They may not. But you had 14 penalties.
Yeah.
You had 2 turnovers. And you still had a chance to win that game at the end. I mean, come on, people. I mean, and the thing about this is, too, Jason, I'm bouncing around a little bit on you, but
no, you're good.
It's not like these teams they're playing don't have issues, too. Probably the closest thing to Georgia's probably the closest thing to a complete team right now in the SEC, but Arkansas doesn't play them. The teams they're playing, Alabama's got quarterback problems. LSU, I mean, A&M's defense is not that. I mean, everybody has issues. And so Arkansas has got to get this thing squared away, but they got to quit committing penalties, man. 14 penalties. The fact they had 14 penalties and 2 turnovers and still had a chance to win, at least tie the game, there at the end. It's just amazing. And because BYU's not a bad team. I'm not sitting there trying to tell you they're a great team. They're not a bad team. That's a good program. They've been good for years, man. And but AJ Green, that's my soapbox today, man. He's just got to get more carries. It's just that simple. I mean, I get the other stuff, some factors, but I'm just telling you, man, I'm one of those guys. I'm gonna put my best players out there, man. It gives me a best chance to win. This keeping people happy stuff, that's fine, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. This is going back. Tonka Todd, they used to coach semi-pro football many years ago. Looking like Arkansas is headed for possibly a 4-8 record. If this is true, do you think it would affect the team and coaching staff turnover?
Well, I mean, yeah, it'll affect them. I mean, but you can't speculate after 3 games what coaches would. I mean, all we can go by is what we've seen the first 3 games. I can't tell you after game 12 who's going to be doing a good job, who's not. I mean, if they go 4-8, yeah, there'll probably be some assistant coaches' heads roll. I mean, and
Yep.
there'll be kids they're going to be kids hit the transfer portal if they go 11-1. It's just the way it is in this day and age. And they're not going 11-1. I'm not saying that, so don't somebody take that wrong. But my point is, they're going to be some player turnover with the transfer portal. It just happens. For assistant coaches, I can't. If they go 4-8, yeah, there'll be some coaches changes. But I can tell you right now, who I think is not necessarily doing a good job. But will that be the case in 10 more weeks? Jason. So it's. I'm not going. I we'll see. But they're definitely 4-8 would cause some more changes over there.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at that defense last night. They only gave up like 280 something yards.
281. That was it. They were.
That you should. You give up 281 yards on defense. If you don't have 14 penalties, 2 turnovers, you probably. And I'm not going to preach too much on the turnovers because they played 3 games. They've got 2 turnovers, Jason.
Yeah,
they've got. So 2 turnovers in 3 games is not awful. But those came at a bad time yesterday. But the penalties, man, drive me crazy. I'm not going to lie to you. I sit there.
They do.
Penalties absolutely drive me nuts. You're Arkansas. Let me put it this way: Arkansas was its own worst enemy last night.
They were. Let's look at what Sam had to say about what they saw with the offensive line and kind of where they were as far as the staff goes.
A blitz fest. They pounded gaps when we was trying to run the football. They whipped us. That's what happened out on the edge, and we started chipping them and all those type things. And going into the game, we really didn't feel like we would need to chip out there and things that we could get our back out in the route and all that. But
so it looked like BYU had made some adjustments that the Arkansas staff might not have accounted for with forcing the running backs like you talked about. They were having to chip where they didn't really have to plan. They really weren't planning on it before. And it kind of took them out of a rhythm a little bit offensively too.
Pittman said after the game, he was asked about that, and he said there wasn't anything they did that surprised them. That everything that they did was what was expected. So I think he just felt like they didn't execute what they did, Jason. And they've got offensive line issues. We knew they were going to have some. I said on this show that they'd probably be pretty bad against Western Carolina, a little bit better against State. It should be coming into their own by the BYU game, and that's not the case. And part of it, only part of it is injuries. They've had some banged up injuries, and then simply some of the older ones are just simply not playing like you would think they would be, being 5th-year seniors and stuff. So, man, they've got some offensive line issues. Look, when you're getting beat on the line, that causes an issue, whether it's offensive or defensive line. If you can't win the line of scrimmage, that's what made that 2015 team so good.
Yeah.
is that offensive line protected BA, gave him time to pass, and Enos doesn't have the personnel this time that he had the first year he came back, the first year he came here. You had Hunter Henry and Jeremy Sprinkle at tight end. You had Drew Morgan, Keon Hatcher, and others at wide receiver. You had a great offensive line. You had Alex Collins running back. But there again, part of the offensive line issues is why you've got to play A.J. Green. He is doing what he's doing behind the same line that these other guys aren't, Jason. It's not like they've got a great offensive line that they put out there for AJ, and when they take him out, they put these other guys in. All of a sudden, they're not blocking anybody. He's doing it against the same line that these other guys are struggling against. And I'm just, people are going to get tired of hearing me say that about AJ, but I'm just telling you, I'm about winning, man, and putting my best, what gives me the best chance to win. And I'm telling you, running back right now, till Rocket comes back, and even when Rocket comes back, AJ needs to still play a lot of football because,
I think honestly, what's fair is
AJ Green was rated, man.
I think what's fair is AJ. I know that we're playing the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but I mean, at this point, you would expect AJ Green to be getting between 12 to 15 carries a game, augmenting with R-Dub, and at this point, I really think that Dominic Johnson's more of a fullback type because that lateral movement is shot. We saw that last night when he tried to make that cut back from the right back to the left, and it just wasn't there. And I was talking to Andrew Hutchinson walking back after the game, back from riding, and I told him, I was like, I think I might have been able to make a little bit better cut back than what he did. Now, granted, I haven't had 2 knee surgeries. I haven't blown my ACL out on each knee. He's out there trying his best, but at the same time, they've got to be able to utilize those guys and put them in the spots where they can operate the best. And having Dominic Johnson at running back trying to go basically a meat and potatoes to the right, it's just not there anymore.
Yeah, I'm just proud of Dominic. I'm just proud Dominic's able to play. 2 ACL surgeries, one on each. I'm just proud he's able to play. But his situation is, if you need a blocker, now he's the guy to put in there. He can block, there's a lot talking about Sean's asking about the play action with 20 seconds left. There's a lot of strange calls. I don't know. New coordinator, but to me, and even as great as Alabama has been, they're doing the same thing down there. To me, Alabama is not doing what fits their quarterback situation the best, I think they're trying to run a certain offense and they're trying to do something with somebody that they can't do that. And I don't know that Dan is using HA the right way in some situations. So we'll see. I don't know. It's 3 games, and it's not just like that was the only game last night we're talking about, trying to magnify everything into one game. There's been some things through 3 games, and you knew there was going to be some, growing pains, I guess, Jason's word to call it, with a new coordinator and stuff. But they've got to make some adjustments, and we'll see. To me, everything is not lost. I look at the fact that they had 14 penalties, 2 turnovers, still had a chance to win that game at the end. And everybody that's on the schedule has their own issues, of their own.
Yeah,
but don't get me wrong. There ain't going to be easy. Nothing's going to be easy for this team. It ain't going to be easy. It's not going to be easy.
No, it's not.
But it's not necessarily a lost cause. I know people get down after a loss, and they're thinking they're not going to win another game except Florida International, and they may very well not. But you got to keep in mind, Arkansas has issues, but so do these other teams that they're playing. Everybody has some issues. LSU got exposed against Florida State. It's a great team, but they got exposed some. A&M's defense is not that good.
No.
But and then we had a guy asking about Cam Little earlier. Yeah, I mean, Cam can make 49-yard field goals in his sleep, Jason, and that stuff comes back and haunts you, because if you make that field goal, then there at the end, if you just scored a touchdown, you wouldn't have had to make a decision whether to try to tie the game with a PAT or win it with a 2-point conversion. If you'd made that field goal, then you could have been in a situation where you go down there on that last drive and get a touchdown and you win the game. So, yeah, every missed point counts, man. And Kim hasn't had very many opportunities with field goals this year. I guess he's I think those were the only two. Didn't he have two last night? And I think that's the only two he's had all year. One thing, it's been good because they've been good in the red zone. Arkansas has. They've gotten in the red zone. They've scored touchdowns, and so that's good.
Yeah.
But when Cam needs to hit that 49-yard field goal. He just didn't do it. And he's got to hit those. I mean, because there's no reason for him to miss a 49-yard field goal. That kid can make that in his sleep, like I said.
Yeah, and one of the comments on here, let me go back up to that just a second. Here you go. And Tony Brown, yesterday we saw another doink from Cam Little. While he didn't end up being a game changer, it seemed like it at the time. Yeah, you see these players, Cam Little out there, kicking a 60-yard field goal. Now, whenever you put everything on the line where you have an active defense that's coming after you, that's trying to block it, you're going to rush a little bit more. It's just one of the things in your internal clock that you try to keep calm, but you're still wanting to get that ball off so it gives it a chance to get through the uprights. Another one is Max Fletcher. We saw him last night before the game. Dude can boom it in pregame, and then he comes out and he has a 10-yard punt.
Yeah, one before that was 20-something, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I mean, he had two punts there that were just awful. There's no other way to say it. They were awful. And you cannot have a 10-yard punt. That's just unacceptable. And the rest of the time he punted well. He's punted well for the most part this season. But, yeah, those two punts there helped change the momentum. I mean, this team is not good enough to be making mistakes like that. They've got to play. They don't have to play a perfect game because they're not going to play a perfect game. But like I said earlier, they were their own worst enemy last night. The missed field goal, two bad punts, 14 penalties, 2 turnovers. Jason, they were their own worst enemy, and yet they still could have won the ball game. That's why I'm saying
they had a chance.
Yeah, all hope is not lost. Well, one of the things like John Everett's asking about the referee game, I'm not going to blame the refs, but I will say this: there was 3 that were strange. The unsportsmanlike, where they said the players tried to go into the stands. That was the explanation they gave for that. The offensive pass interference, I guess TV said it was a pick. Luke said a pick. And then the roughing the quarterback. Those are 3 strange calls. I think I don't know, but I think most of the holding calls were legit. But there were 3 calls last night that was strange, man. But those 3, I'd forgot about the roughing the quarterback. And Gary Fitzgerald mentioned that this morning to me, because I was talking about the other 2, and I had forgotten about the roughing the quarterback. Yeah, there was 3 calls last night. And man, those are killers. I mean, and maybe they were the correct call, but I do know there were some holding calls. Paul got held. There was some other stuff that didn't get called. That wasn't a good refereeing crew last night. And there again, I know somebody's gonna say you're blaming the refs. No, I'm not. But I'm not. I mean, I don't know why people say don't blame the refs. Don't blame the refs. I mean, that was not a good crew last night. It's that simple. Arkansas was their own worst enemy, but the refereeing wasn't good. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like it does. It's just like in the Liberty Bowl, Jason, when they had reviews and they still made the wrong calls. I'm not going to sit here and act like it doesn't affect the game. The heck it doesn't. If people want to say, oh, we're talking about the officiating, I'm not going to talk about – I don't talk about officiating. Well, that's fine. But I don't know how you can cover the sport and not talk about officiating. It makes a difference. I mean, that was not a well-officiated game last night. It just wasn't.
Now, and whenever we were looking back at the unsportsmanlike conduct penalties that took the Razorbacks essentially from the 35-yard line back to the 50.
Yeah.
The one thing that I looked at that I noticed that I honestly thought, because I was talking to Dudley about this too, was that whenever, if you look at it closely, after Nudie had stripped the ball, Hudson came back up with it. Nudie walks back over and takes his hand, puts it on a BYU BYU player's helmet, and shoves it in the ground, and then walks off. And I thought, oh, there's your explanation right there. And then come to find out a couple of minutes later, that wasn't it. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, so we picked that up, they missed it, and then they made a bad call on a bunch of players running to the end zone. It's like, give me a break. What
They're trying to go in the state. Look, man,
that's just stupid.
I'm going to tell you, Miami was the cause of years and years and years ago that they put in that rule, celebrating rule, taunting and stuff.
Yeah.
Arkansas wasn't taunting anybody last night. Look, man, they got a turnover. They were celebrating. We're talking about college kids. Let them celebrate, man. I mean, now if you're taunting the other team or you're causing something like that, that's one thing. But just I don't know, man. I'll just say this. I didn't think that was a good officiating crew last night. I thought they were bad. And I don't know what else to say. I just thought they were bad. I didn't like their calls, a lot of them. And they missed some of their 9 calls, you know. I mean, it seemed like I don't know. They were excessive with their flags on Arkansas.
So on the defensive side last night, one of the things that I felt was really kind of telling was from Pupal in postgame. And he stated that he felt like it wasn't that the effort wasn't there. It's just that he felt like BYU wanted the game more than they did. They were willing to put out more effort, effort, really, essentially, in turning the tide after, getting down 14-0 after an electric return by Isaiah Satania. Yeah. And there's one guy that I know for a fact that can attest to this, because I looked at Drake and I said, watch this. This is about to be fun. And then they kicked it and he ran it back. Yeah. And you have an electric receiver, a returner and receiver for that matter, in Isaiah Satania, where we were waiting for something like this to happen. You could see the writing on the wall. Yeah. And BYU still took that punch and said, okay, that's what you got. Okay, this is what we've got. And then they riddled off 21 points after that.
Yeah, it was a basketball game in many senses because it was a game of runs.
Yeah.
Arkansas went up 31-21 and then never scored again, So, and then BYU goes on a 17-0 run to end the game. Yeah, it was a game of runs. But, yeah, I'm going to tell you, that Isaiah is another kid that I'd like to see. It seemed like maybe he got a few more reps at wide receiver last night. But he's another kid I'd like to get a few more reps at wide receiver than he's getting. I think I've said in preseason, and I haven't seen anything to change my mind, that Armstrong and Tesla were the 3 best receivers on the team, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen anything to make me think otherwise. I thought Broden is coming on. I think Broden's coming on. Mm-hmm. But, Mr. T's talking about KJ. I agree. I still think, AJ's the best. KJ, I got AJ Green on the brain, man. KJ Jefferson is I agree that he's the best quarterback in the SEC. I really do. He had some mistakes last night, but KJ's a good quarterback, very good quarterback, and I think he's the best quarterback. I agree with you on the SEC. I'm going to give it some time. I'm not going to tear into Dan about how he's using him. I get what the fan is saying. I get it. I completely get it. But I'm going to give it some more time. I mean, they're all adjusting over there. It's 3 games in. But,
it's not the end of the world by no stretch of the imagination.
I think Sam could have handled himself a little better after the game, too, because he got asked by 2 people about the decision to go for it at 4th down at midfield. And by the way, I didn't have any issue with going but then the third person, Andrew Hutchinson, asked him about not having KJ under center in that situation, and he went off. He just said, "I'm not going to. I've already answered that this third time, and I'm not answering again." No, he hadn't answered that. He had not answered about not having KJ under center. He had asked about going for it there, but he had not been asked specifically about KJ being under center in that situation. And he could have answered that question to Andrew a lot better than he did. Instead of getting defensive, Sam could have answered that a lot better. I was really disappointed in Sam with the way he answered that. I know he was frustrated, and people messaged me after the game, and was talking about that, and I said, Sam was frustrated. I get it, but as a coach, but he did not. He never did. John Everett asked him why wasn't KJ. Sam never answered it. And I mean, you've got a 247-pound quarterback. I put his butt up there if you can't sneak it. But I mean, they're so predictable on that 4th and inches. It's not working for them. It does some. I wouldn't even mind seeing KJ under center, take the ball, fake it to R-Dub or AJ, whoever's in there, Dominic, whoever's in there, and then drop back and throw a deep pass to Isaac or Armstrong.
Luke Has.
We
saw Luke Has get his first touchdown as a Razorback last night, and that was a great touch that KJ threw to him on the left side there. And KJ had some great touch throws last night where you can see him starting to maturate not as a thrower but as a passer.
Bill. But I mean, he's I'd like to see him if you're going to do that. I mean, the best thing I think would be to get up under center, do the sneak, and see what you got. But they're getting in that shotgun or back, and then they're handing off, and most of the time it's Dominion. It's not even AJ, and it's like, to me, they're not. It goes back to what I said earlier. I don't think the play that they're doing is give the one, and the personnel is giving them the best chance to win in that situation. And that's what I'm all about, is not playing. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not having the best. I'll just leave it at this. I don't think in that situation they have the best personnel in the game and doing the right play. I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Tree W, I have to agree with you on the comfort hire. I feel like this was somebody that Sam was very comfortable with whenever they both were here at their time with Brett Bielema, and he felt like they had the personnel to be able to expand with what Dan's knowledge brings to the table. It may take a little while longer than we honestly thought, because, again, this is what I was talking about last week, where fans were comfortable and they understood what both of those two men brought to the table for the University of Arkansas. We just expected them to be able to come in here with a magic wand and say, here it is, because we have the personnel. It still takes some time. We're only a quarter of the way through the season.
Well, I mean, when Dan came here the first time was Sam's last year here as an assistant, he came into a situation where he had an experienced quarterback, BA. He had Alex Collins at running back. He had Hunter Henry and Jeremy Sprinkle at tight end. He had Keon Hatcher, Drew Morgan, and others at wide receiver. But he also had inherited a very good offensive line. I mean, a very good offensive line. They kept BA clean those games. And it's not the same this time. I mean, some of it's the same. He inherited a talented quarterback, experienced, and got it, but don't have it, I mean, but the offensive line is the biggest difference. But yeah, I mean, it is 3 games in, man. And I think people overreact to wins. They overreact to losses, and I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to let this thing play out. As I said, just keep one thing in mind. We can sit here and we talk about Arkansas because that's who we cover. But I just know these teams all have issues, and that they're going to play. They all have issues, and when you don't have a quarterback you've got an issue. I know they've got a great. I guess they've got a great defense at Texas. That's what I mean at Alabama. That's what everybody's telling me. But they sure didn't look great against Texas. But when you don't have a quarterback, man, you've got potential to have some issues. So, just we'll see. I mean, the thing about it is, we can talk about Dan Enos all we want, but he's going to be the offensive coordinator this year, folks. I mean, that's not going to change. I mean, he was hired. He's going to come in here. He's going to be the offensive coordinator at least the rest of this year. We're just going to have to give him time and see why it works out, and it may or may not work out for him. But there's other issues besides just Dan Enos, where I can assure you. I mean, they've got several issues, and it goes even on offense, and it goes beyond Dan, way beyond Dan. So we'll see what happens here as the season plays out.
Well, I think honestly one of the best cures for a game that you anticipated, you thought for the last, 6, 7, 8 months, that anytime you talked about it, you saw the roster, you saw the schedule, you marked BYU as a W, and now you have to mark them as a loss. And one of the best cures for a loss is a win, because if you go out next week, this team figures it out a little bit more than they did the week before, which that's what's happened now the last 2 weeks, that they kind of regressed with Kent State, but now they've figured it out a little bit more with BYU. They come back out with LSU. They start to figure out some more. If Arkansas goes out there, runs for 150, 200 yards, passes for 250, and wins and beats LSU by 10 points, I'm going to guarantee you not one person is going to be thinking about what happened with BYU the week before, because now they're looking on to Texas A&M.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, the LSU is going to be a tough game, and it was going to be a tough game if Arkansas beat BYU. It was going to be a very difficult game to win, night game in Baton Rouge. But I'm going to tell you, A&M is not – A&M is a winnable game. But here's the deal. I said in preseason, when I predicted 8 wins, I said Arkansas, it was a must to win their 7 home games. And now they've lost one of them. And I thought if you win those 7, then you've got A&M, Ole Miss, LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida. A&M, Ole Miss, and Florida, you could maybe pick up 1 win there and get you to 8. Could you win 2 of them, get to 9? But they've lost a home game now, and so it makes it really difficult, Jason. And but you've got the only thing you can do. Well, the worst thing Arkansas could do right now is let this one loss turn into 2, then to 3, then to 4, then to 5. I mean, you don't look, man. Go out here this week, correct the mistakes you made, cut out a lot of those penalties, man. Those frustrating penalties, cut those out, and then flush that game, man. You gotta flush it. I mean, it's over, and you can't let that BYU loss turn into 4 and 5 losses. So you've got to forget that. Go out here, wipe the slate clean, just like if you'd won the game last night. Wipe the slate clean, go down there and play the best you can play against LSU. The result is what it is at the end of the night, and then you get on the plane, you come home, and you get ready to do the next week against A&M down in Dallas or Arlington. So it's all you can do, man. So we'll see how all this plays out. But Arkansas's the last thing they need to do is overreact to that game last night and let that linger, because if they do, they're going to have some issues, man, because the last thing they need to do is let that game turn into 3 or 4 losses along the way.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest parts about this stretch, is that it can slip now from a 2-loss to a 2-game losing streak to a 3 or 4-game losing streak. I don't see that happening maybe with Alabama. I know that sounds crazy to think. They're having just as many offensive line issues as Arkansas is having, if not more. They have even worse quarterback issues, which I thought I'd never say about a Nick Saban team. But over the last 8-9 years, that program has been accustomed to such high-level talent. Now that you've had a drop-off, and you saw them only put up 17 points against South Florida.
Alabama's got quarterback issues, and for the first time that in recent memory that I can remember, when they play, Arkansas is going to have the better quarterback of the two teams if KJ's healthy. So Yeah, but Alabama's got some real issues, and so we'll see. And I'm not saying they can't fix them, but I don't know if they've got a quarterback on that team. I think one thing they're trying to do, they're trying to run that style of offense that they switched to when he hired Lane Kiffin a few years ago to go to that pro style instead of the power football. And probably right now they're better suited to do that power football personnel. With Milroe at quarterback. I know he didn't play they played the other guys, but Jaden, with all of his shortcomings, he's probably still their best quarterback. I don't know, but we'll see what happens there. But yeah, they've got some issues, and with Arkansas's defense, they can make that a game down there in Tuscaloosa and Alabama. I mean, A&M can be a good game. We'll see what happens with LSU. I'm not saying they keep – LSU was one of the games I kind of had chalked up as a loss to start the season. Yeah. It's going to be tough to win that game, and it would have been tough had they beaten BYU last night. But one thing Arkansas's got to do beyond anything else, they've got to clean up those penalties, man. The offense.
You see it go from 4 penalties last week against Kent State to 14 against BYU.
Yeah,
and even something that we address.
Bad calls, it's still too many, Jason.
It is. It really is. And honestly, I think a lot of people are starting to see as these last 3 weeks have progressed that the SEC as a whole is down this year. You see Tennessee go down and get whipped by Florida. That everybody had Florida basically, a DOA with with the coaching problems. It seems like kind of the coaching unrest that they have down there in Gainesville. Yeah. You had Vanderbilt. They look pretty stout, even though they lost. Clark Lee's got them kind of going. You also look at the way Georgia performed yesterday against South Carolina. Spencer Rattler's no slouch anyway. We found that out last year. And Georgia just about found out this year, too.
Yeah. Georgia's probably still the best team in the SEC, but the biggest thing is Arkansas doesn't have to play there. The teams that Arkansas plays all have some. We focus, as I said earlier, on Arkansas, but all these teams have got some shortcuts. There's not. I think it's safe to say, including Georgia, there's not a just completely dominant, typical SEC team in the field this year. Georgia's probably got the best chance of becoming that. See, I don't think Alabama's going to be a dominant team this year because I just think they've got too bigger shortcoming at quarterback to be a dominant. They've got other issues besides quarterback, it's just the offensive line and stuff. Their defense, it may be good, but Texas went through it pretty good. I'm just saying Alabama's, I don't think can be a dominant team this year. I think they've come back to earth some. Tell you the transfer portal and NIL has changed a lot of things in college football and college sports, Jason, and it's even the playing field in some areas.
It has. And I want to go ahead. I want to move on to the task at hand for next week. Sam Pittman will be in his weekly press conference tomorrow at noon. You'll be able to find that here on Hogville.net YouTube Live. We'll post that on there as it becomes available. I'll get that sent out to you all. And you look at what Brian Kelly has really started to kind of put together down there. You had week 1 where they go down, they play Florida State and it's the Camping World whatever bowl, whatever it is there in Orlando, and they had some trouble. And honestly, the better team won with Florida State pulling out ahead there at the end, and they really made that offense at LSU kind of look bland. But then you fast forward to yesterday, they go to a Mississippi State team that kind of is down a little bit. And they go down there and they thumped them. And I mean, that thing was over by the first half.
Yeah, I watched first quarter. I watched a lot of that till it got out of hand, and it got out pretty early. I switched over to Missouri and Kansas State. I'm sure hoping Kansas State could win that game, but I switched over to that game, so I didn't watch the rest of the game there. But LSU really took it to Mississippi State, and I'd heard people talking about Mississippi State had a better quarterback than LSU. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't think there again. They've gone from the air raid to this new coach after the unfortunate death of Coach Leach, and it's affected Will Rogers down there, Jason.
Yeah.
So when you get a experienced Will Rogers and KJ and Jaden Daniels were the three returning quarterbacks who enjoyed success. I mean, the most success in the SEC was those three, and Daniels has got the same staff pretty much around him that he had last year, whereas KJ and Rogers have got new coaches. It's affecting them, man.
It is. And last night I put Drake Pretty on, put him on the spot there. I asked him, I said during the post game show, I said, I wasn't going to answer it, but I wanted to get his prediction for Arkansas LSU next week, and I do believe he had said like 44-21 LSU.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to see where that goes. I told him I wasn't giving my prediction until today. I think that Arkansas makes it close. I don't think that they're able to pull it out, kind of like what happened with this week. You start to see more progression where the offense doesn't put the defense in such bad positions on short field situations. I think that you start to really – I'm really pulling for Max Fletcher. I'm really pulling for him to be able to flip the field on LSU a few times, to give the defense a chance to get out there, make some stops, create a couple of turnovers, get a couple of sacks. Even if they're able to do that, I think that Arkansas probably loses 31-17, 31-21, somewhere right around there. I think that the defense really keeps them in check, but I just don't know if the offense is able to still find their way through the struggles that they're having at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Arkansas will come out and maybe play a better game against LSU than we think. But there again, LSU is going to be at home. It's a night game. They're going to be fired up for the Hogs, and but on the other hand, LSU sleepwalk some. I felt like they did last year in Fayetteville, and so LSU has a tendency, like Arkansas, to play down to the level of competition. I didn't think Arkansas did that yesterday. I think BYU's pretty good, but not great, but pretty good. I just felt like Arkansas just was its own worst enemy yesterday, but they can't do that against LSU. They've got to go down there to Baton Rouge and play a pretty clean game. You can't have 10-yard punts. You can't have missed field goals that are makeable. You can't have 14 penalties. It's just they've got to clean up a lot of things for LSU, or it could get out of hand.
I do want to bring this up. Tony Brown sent this message in right before we're going to wrap up here. I do want to put this on here because, Otis, this is something that you and I talked about for the last couple of weeks, where the media has been starting to ask, and it's not Arkansas soft media either. I mean, they've been asking him difficult questions, and he's gotten a little bit testier as the last couple of weeks have moved on, even with losses or wins, and now with a loss. Yeah, I expect the media to start asking him more difficult questions. That's our job.
Well, I mean, to me, we've asked relevant questions all along. I mean, but what I tell people that have talked about this in the past, I've talked to them, I've told people over and over, we can ask any question we want to ask. We can't make Sam answer it. He's going to answer it like he wants it.
Mm-hmm.
I know people like I said earlier, people were messaging me last night and they were upset with Sam talking to the media like he did. Look, I don't care how he talks to me, but I really don't, because I chalk it up as Sam was frustrated. Sam Pittman's a good man. Real good.
He cares.
Yeah, he's a good man. He cares, and he's treated me great. And if he wants to it wasn't my question, but I would have asked I was going to ask the same question, Andrew. Yeah. I was going to ask about the quarterback under center on 4th and short, and And I was going to ask about AJ if he was hurt, which I knew he wasn't. But the press conference ended before I got a chance to ask it. But I look, Sam was frustrated, and I get it. Yeah, I mean, media's going to ask. We're going to ask legit questions if it pertains to the plays. And when you make a decision, you're up 10, you go for it at midfield, which I think was the right decision, and you don't make it. Then they score 17 straight points and beat you. We're going to ask that question. But we can't make Sam answer it other than the way, if he wants to get testy, or if he wants to give us a BS answer, or if he wants to give us a legit answer. All we can do is ask the questions, and I feel like we've always done that. I didn't last year because I didn't get to go to any press conferences. I did the Zoom after the game with Ty Hudson after the game, so I didn't get to go to a single press conference all last year. After the game, now I'd go to those on Monday when I got feeling better. I mean, I didn't go for a while because I wasn't feeling like it. But Sam's a good man. He's frustrated, and he gets a little. I've noticed that most of the questions that we're talking about where he gets testy, most of it's concerning the offensive line. If you've noticed, that's his baby. That's his specialty. But that's the ones where it seems like to me, no matter the question, it always seems like the ones where he gets testy is somehow related to the offensive line, even putting the quarterback up under center, playing 7 or 8 offensive linemen. He got testy last week, or maybe it was the week before. I think it was last week. It might not be one after the game, but there was a time where he was asked about playing 7 or 8. Is that something you're going to do, or are you still trying to? It was just a legit question. Is that something you're going to do, or are you still trying to find the top 5? And he got pretty. I've noticed when Sam gets defensive and testy, most of it's concerning some way, one way or the other, the offensive line. And why? We can all speculate on that.
Yep. Well, Otis, it's that time, man. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, yeah.
We'll look at a little bit more recruiting next week too. So I do want to announce as well. There's a couple of special guests that we're going to have over the next couple of weeks. Today we've got Limbo Parks coming on this afternoon at 4:45. Next week we've got Olin Buchanan from Texags.com. He's going to join us. And then on Sunday, leading up to the A&M game. Then the week after that, we've got Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South. That's going to help me preview the Arkansas-Ole Miss matchup and look at games around the league for that coming weekend. And that'll be on a Hogville.net special show. So, Otis, thank you again. And for myself, Jason Pattyson, we will see you guys next week, post-game show after the Arkansas LSU game. We'll be live, and it'll be right here since we won't be traveling. And, I don't know. Otis, are you going to the game? I don't know. I hadn't heard yet.
Not to the LSU. Lenny did not approve that one. I'm not sure about A&M yet.
Okay. All right. Well, nonetheless, you'll still see me and Drake Pretty, after the game against LSU. You got Dudley coming up here at 4:30, then Limbo Parks at 4:45. So jump back on with us. You can get all the links on Hogville.net YouTube Live and also on Hogville.net on Facebook and Twitter. And for myself and Otis Kirk, y'all, thank you, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, man. Appreciate what you do, Jason. You do a great job, man. That's very much appreciated by me, I promise you.
You're welcome, man. Anytime. Always for a legend.
Thanks, man.